Why would you make a cover topper? And it could be because you're not confident to build something directly onto the cover. G'day, it's Donna from Australia. And if you're a newbie, you're probably asking, what is a cover topper? A cover topper is a decorative piece that is created separately and then attached to the front of your junk journal cover. It adds a unique touch and gives personality to your journal. You can glue it on, you can sew it on, so there's endless possibilities. Everything I'm using to make this topper has been found, given, op-shopped or recycled. Now credit goes to my crafty angel mum's dear friend Rob, who originally designed this. Doesn't matter what level you are, you're going to be able to make this. For the base, you'll need about a 300 GSM sheet of cardboard, and you'll need a very thin corrugated cardboard. Don't use anything heavy, just something that's very thin and that's got smaller corrugates. I've pulled my box apart and I'm going to tear all four sides. This is going to be my decorative background piece. Now this is only a topper. I haven't decided what size my journal's going to be yet. For the base piece, I'm just using the cardboard from a box. So I'm going to use my decorative piece as a guide and I'm cutting it just a little bit bigger. I'm going to colour the edges and I'm using a makeup brush. You could use your dauber to do this. I'm using Tattered Rose because it's going to work in with my vintage theme really good. You don't have to colour all the way in because we're going to glue the decorative piece on top of it. Now I want to add some stamping over the top just to give it some extra interest. So I pick out which stamp I want. I like this crackled look. It's perfect for the look I want. That's the base done. We can start working on the decorative piece. Before we start adding goodies to it, we've got to distress this bit first. So just grab the craft paper that's on top of the corrugate and start tearing it. Don't tear it too neatly around the edge. Do it in a bit of a hit and miss, and don't worry about the middle because we are going to be covering that over. Grab some gesso. If you haven't got any gesso, grab white paint. Everything I'm showing you is optional. You can change it up and use whatever you like. I'm going to use the dry brush method, so you don't need a lot of paint or gesso for this at all. So I put a little bit of the gesso on a scrap piece and then I just brush randomly all around the distressed edge of my corrugate. Now if this turns out a little bit light for you, just dab a bit more of the full-on paint. Don't make it so dry. I think these highlights and lowlights make it look a lot better. And just wipe off your brush in the center, it won't hurt it. I'm going to use a piece of this beautiful old naturally discoloured music sheet that Marthy sent me over from the Netherlands. Always love a bit of happy mail. And on the left hand side, I'm just going to use a bit of scrap coffee dyed paper and add some script stamping to it. I'm going to tear this side of it so it matches the corrugate. The rest of it's going to be covered over. Glue these two pieces down, a bit wonky. They always look good wonky. And I found this spiderweb type see-through paper in Mum's stash. It's pretty hard to tear, but I really liked it because it was rough as when I did tear it, and I like the edge of that a lot better. So I swung it around so that tore edge could be used on the opposite side, and instead of trying to tear it again, I just cut this side because it's going to be covered over by a photograph in the middle a bit later on. And then I cut some smaller pieces because I didn't want it to be perfect, the same on the right side as the left side. So I've got a full piece on the right side and two smaller pieces on the left. It just makes it look not too perfect. I printed out a couple of pictures because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use. This one's from the Graphics Fairy, this one as well in colour, and this one I changed it to sepia, and this one's a Creatives Common. This one I changed from black and white to sepia. I'm picking a background here. I like this one, but then I accidentally set it over the top of this photograph and I liked the border around this one. So I'm using it. I'm going to glue it on top. You're not going to see the bottom of this image, so that didn't matter at all. And then I took it to my sewing machine and done a straight stitch around the edge. Now I'm looking through my doilies. All of these are from the op shop. If you've got a 4.5 inch photo, try and find a round 4.5 inch doily. But I didn't have any that small, so I'm just going to cut into one of my bigger ones. I've picked out a really fine crocheted doily, not one of the thicker ones. I want something that's floppy, that's real soft and floppy. Once I've cut the piece at the bottom, it's going to have a straight line across the top because I'm going to glue it on top of the bottom of the photo. And this is what it would look like if you were using a circle doily. You just cut it in half. I found this old petticoat from the op shop. Cost me $1, but it took me a while to find it. I was waiting a good year before I come across an old petticoat like this. What I was looking for was this soft, satiny feel with a lace hem. I wanted a decorative hem so that I could do exactly this. So just cut off a piece at the bottom. If you can't find a petticoat, just find some fabric and sew a piece of lace on the bottom of it. Now I'm going to cut a piece of seam binding. I need enough to go across the bottom of the photograph and then have a piece that hangs down either side. You can use ribbon, but you want something that is soft and drapes. Now I'm spoilt for choice. I've got a lot of lace. So I went through my lace and I found, you know, this lace that's got all the holes in it? I don't know what it's called, but it's designed to have ribbon go through it. It's like this. This piece here is Victorian lace. It's already got ribbon in it. This is how it was originally made. So I could use this, but I would waste a lot of it because I only want the trim on the top to go underneath the photo, and then I would have to pull out a tail for the ribbon to hang down either side. So I'd rather use this piece of lace here that hasn't got any ribbon in it and thread my own seam binding through the holes. So I've threaded the seam binding through the holes so it's got a tail hanging on the right and left hand side. I'm going to add a piece of this gauze over the top of the petticoat and under the lace because originally I wanted the petticoat to be a very pale pink to go with my seam binding, and I couldn't find a pink one. And I'm going to use my distress ink and I'm going to put a hint of pink colour on it. I'm going to use a makeup brush. My spun sugar was far too light and Festive Berries is far too dark. So I wipe off a lot of the colour on my paper and then again on my paper, and then I brush what's left on the brush over the top of my gauze, and it's just what I'm looking for. These brushes hold some colour, so I'm just going to wipe this colour off straight on my piece here. It's very subtle, but it looks great. So the next step is to glue our photograph in place. So I'm going to make sure it's fairly well glued down. I'm just using a fabric glue. I wouldn't use a glue stick for this, but if that's all you got, you could use it. Now I'm going to glue on my lace layers. So one single bead of fabric glue across the bottom of my photograph, and then just lay the petticoat over it. and then put another bead of glue over the top of the petticoat and lay the gauze over that. You can see the pink in the gauze a bit better here on this layer. And add another bead of glue and lay your lace doily over the top of that. So you can see how good these layers look together now. I use my silicone bone folder to press them down because the glue always pushes through these lace layers. Using this will stop it from sticking to your fingers. And then put a bit of glue on the back of your seam binding ribbon piece and glue that down. I also glue where I want my side pieces to hang down. If you don't, they'll probably just hang out, or, straight out from right to left. This way you can make them drape down wherever you want them. I've picked out one of Mum's old vintage buttons. So I just doubled up a piece of crochet thread and tied a single knot in it. And to keep the knot in place, I just put a little dab of the Barely Art glue because it will dry clear. If this is your first time to my channel, you probably guessed that my mum had an extensive stash. Huge. This is only one little box of threads that I had to choose from. I've picked this very, very fine thread and I'm spinning it around a piece of cardboard. You know how you make pom-poms? Sort of like that. And then once I've got a fair bit twisted around, I'm just cutting off one end, just one edge. And then I'm going to put a bit of glue where my button is. So moving my button out of the road, I put a generous amount of my fabric glue down, and then I'm just going to squish all of those threads on top of that glue. I probably could have used a bit more of this thread. I didn't realise it was going to be so light on, but it still turned out good. It didn't take over the whole piece. It actually complemented it nicely. Then I add a bit more glue. I got a bit generous on the back of the button because it's going to help hold down all those threads, because otherwise they're just going to all fall away. I'm loving how this looks. It is turning out so beautiful. And now that I've got the button in place, I'm going to put a bit more glue behind this ribbon and train it to hang down where I want it. I've got plenty of these little flat back pearls, so I'm going to glue 3 of them right on the front of the ribbon lace here. I want to glue this corrugated cardboard to my base. Because it's shiny, I don't want it to come off, so I'm going to use a double-sided tape. If you haven't got a double-sided tape this wide, just put a lot of rows together, and then I'm going to add my fabric glue to the outside edge. Another way you can help it stick good is to get some sandpaper and rough up that gloss. Then I'm just going to stick this down on my base sheet, and I'm going to add one last embellishment that's going to match all these pinky colours here and just finish it off beautifully. I'm going to glue this heart here that I've stamped, but you could put a flower, you could put a paper flower, or you could put a beaded flower. You could put any embellishment you like. I didn't have a scalloped heart punch, so I made up my own, and I put a few extra in my shop if you want to check them out. And this is a really nice way to embellish them to match everything else you've already done on your cover. You'll need a stamp and some distress ink. I'm using the Tattered Rose and a smaller makeup brush. I'm going to blend from the outside of the heart towards the center, but not into the center. And I'm going to do that all the way around the edge of the heart. And I'm going to leave the center blank so that it looks like it's got a highlight. So once I've finished coloring it with the Tattered Rose, I'm going to see how lucky I am at getting the words I want just in the right spot on this heart. Yeah, too low. Lucky I've got a few here, so I'm just going to have another go at it and see if I can get more of the word heart in here. It's a little bit better. My mum made this flower, and all it is 3 layers of paper with a brad in the centre, and I just put some colour on it to show you how beautiful it would work as well. Now I'm gluing on my heart and just checking, is there anything else I need to do to this? And I thought, oh yes, of course, I'm going to crinkle my ribbon. And all I'm doing to crinkle my seam binding is using a little spray bottle and just wetting my seam binding only, so I don't wet the papers underneath. And then I'm going to leave it to dry, and that's it. We're all done. I really do love how this turned out. I'm pretty sure you'll see me come back and make a journal for this.